My wife was in the hospital, clinging to life by a thread. Our daughter took off to Hawaii and said, "Mom's on her way out. I've got better things to do with my time." She traded a final farewell for sunbathing and tropical cocktails, leaving all she'd ever received in the dust. But when she finally returned home and walked into her room, the reality came crashing down, knocking the wind right out of her. It was going to change everything for her. My finger hovered over her photo on my phone, a snapshot of Stella, beaming at some company thing from 3 years ago. The phone's glow filled the dim living room, almost like it was accusing me of something. I'd been sitting in my dad's old leather chair for what felt like forever, staring at a cold cup of coffee starting to grow a film on top. Outside, the March rain was lightly tapping against the windows, while inside, the grandfather clock ticked on steadily. My notebook lay open on my lap. Day 11, no sight of Stella. I rubbed my sweaty palms on my jeans, took a long breath, and dialed her number. It rang 7 times. I counted each one carefully. "Dad." Her voice came on, mixed with background noise. There was music, laughter. "What's up?" she asked. Not a hello, not a how's it going. Just what's up, Stella. I'm ringing you about your mom. Yeah, I know. Listen, it's loud here. Mom wants to see you every single day. More laughter drifted through the line. Maybe a joke was told. She hadn't even tried to move somewhere quieter. Dad, I told you I'm buried with work. Monday's presentation is, but this isn't about work. I clenched the phone hard enough to make my knuckles go white. It's about your mom in that hospital bed. Don't try to guilt trip me. Guilt trip? I jumped out of the chair because I just couldn't keep sitting. It's been 11 days, Stella. 11 days she's been there. I get it. I know the timeline, all right. Do you, really? Because every single day she looks to the door, hoping, waiting that today's the day. That place is such a drag, she slurred a little. How many drinks had she tossed back? I just can't do hospitals. But remember when you had pneumonia at 15, your mom was right there. Silence. Then she muttered, that was different. How so? I was just a kid. I needed... She pulled back. Needed what? Love? Support? Stuff she doesn't need now? Look, I'm 38, Dad. Please, stop trying to control my life. Sounds of loud music rose behind her. Somebody was calling her name. Maybe it was Trisha. Your mom's fading. Yeah, I know that, she said, sounding annoyed. You think I don't know? Then act like you do. You know what? I don't really need this right now. I just wanted a single night to relax. And here you are, calling with what the truth. Fair enough. Her words sliced through the noise, then there it was, the dial tone. Call ended. 3:47. I stared at my phone, watching the screen go dark. My reflection warped in the black glass. I tossed it onto the couch. It landed on the floral pillow Minnie had sewn 2 decades ago. Bright yellow roses. She'd always been so proud of those. I took 8 steps to the fireplace. The old wooden floor groaned underneath me. That board had been loose since '87. Minnie always said we should fix it. We just never got around to it. The mantel was filled with snapshots of our life, all arranged by Minnie. Stella at age 5, missing a tooth and covered in chocolate. Stella at 8, dressed up as a sunflower for her school play. Stella at 15, an IV drip by her side at the hospital. Minnie in the chair next to her, sound asleep at 3 a.m. Stella at 23, in her cap and gown on graduation day. Diploma raised high. Minnie tears streaming, but happy tears. Mascara a little smudged. Stella pulling us both into a tight embrace. I picked up that particular frame. The silver felt cool in my hand. Fingerprints smudged the glass, ones Minnie left behind last month before she couldn't stand long enough to clean. The girl in that photo seemed so full of love. I peered closely at her face. That smile, those bright eyes. Where'd that girl go? Slowly, I turned the frame face down on the mantel. My hand stayed, pressing it flat against the wood. The clock chimed once. 8 Mao. The rain had turned to sleet, pounding harder now, like tiny fingers knocking on the windows. My phone buzzed on the couch, but I stayed where I was. I grabbed another frame. Stella, again at 5. That cheeky, gap-toothed grin. Eventually, the elevator trembled up to the 4th floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same number of hours I'd managed to sleep. 4. The doors slid open, and that unmistakable hospital scent was first to hit me. It always did. Then the sounds came in, machines beeping, soft conversations from nurses, a TV buzzing from a door left barely open. The tulips felt heavy in my grip, an $18 purchase from the hospital's gift shop in yellow and pink, Minnie's favorite colors. Room 412 was our destination. As I nudged the door open, it creaked softly, and I plastered a smile onto my face. Once inside, I put on a faint smile just before Minnie could catch sight of me. "Morning, love," I greeted her, crossing the familiar stretch from the door to her bedside quickly, just 6 steps I knew too well. Her forehead felt like fragile tissue paper when I kissed it, warm and slightly moist. Her voice was gentle, almost breakable. "You're here early," she remarked. "Wanted to dodge the traffic," I said, making my way to the bathroom to fill a plastic vase from the windowsill with water. My hands shook as I arranged the tulips. Minnie noticed every little thing. The chair made a loud screech against the floor when I dragged it closer. I held her hand, noticing how her wedding ring was now loose on her skinny finger. "Is Stella visiting today?" she asked, the question I dreaded since the moment I woke up. "She sends her love," I replied, trying to sound laid back, though my words spilled out fast, too cheerful. "Big presentation on Monday. Important client." Minnie's gaze, keen despite everything, examined my face. "Monday is 2 days away," she noted. "You know her, a perfectionist just like her mother," I said. Despite the oxygen tube, Minnie's breathing was labored. She realized I wasn't telling the whole truth but chose not to push. "She works too hard," Minnie murmured. I felt a mix of relief and guilt. The room filled with the rhythmic beeping of machines. I peeked at the heart monitor and IV pump by the window, noticing the bleak sky and lifeless trees with branches like skeleton fingers reaching skyward. Minnie was wrapped in a purple shawl, Stella's gift from 5 years ago. She wore it every day now. On the side table sat 7 get-well cards, none from Stella. "Let's talk about yesterday," Minnie requested, shifting slightly. "What did you do after you left here?" "Read a bit, had some soup for dinner, watched a bit of news," I said. "You need to eat better, real meals," she gently scolded. "I'm fine, darling," I assured her. "You're getting too thin," she noted, worry clear in her voice. Before I could reply, the door swung open. In walked Margaret, clipboard in hand, her navy scrubs adding to the air of calm confidence she brought each day. "Morning, Minnie. How's the pain today?" she asked. "Manageable," Minnie answered. Margaret checked the monitors, jotted notes, and adjusted Minnie's pillows with practiced care. "That's good to hear," she said. "Pain level from 1 to 10? 4, Minnie responded. Margaret glanced at me briefly before turning back to Minnie. They chatted briefly about the weather, hospital meals, and tomorrow's plans before Margaret nodded toward the door, catching my eye. "I need to stretch my legs," I told Minnie, giving her hand a squeeze. "I'll be right back." Margaret led me into the hallway, stopping around 15 feet away by a supply closet. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Mr. Harvey," she began softly. "Can we speak honestly?" My guard went up. "Of course," I responded. "I've been a nurse for 15 years. I've seen a lot of families." She paused. Your daughter hasn't contacted us even once. Not in 2 weeks. No questions about medicines, prognosis, visiting hours, nothing. I found myself defending Stella. She's really busy. She has a director-level job, lots of responsibilities. Margaret's voice was still gentle but firm. Responsibility starts at home. I tried to justify things, but she went on. I understand a mother asking about her daughter every day, but not a daughter who never calls. Her words stung deeply, leaving me without words. I'm not judging, Margaret added, her expression softening. But your wife needs her, and you shouldn't have to pretend. Feeling caught and exposed, I slouched slightly against the wall, staring down at the floor tiles, one cracked near my foot. I know, I whispered, barely audible. Giving my shoulder a reassuring pat, Margaret moved on. Visitors and nurses moved past, a man helping his wife in a wheelchair, all unaware of the storm within me. Just then, Dr. Patel came over, clipboard in hand, looking utterly exhausted. I braced myself for what was coming. Are those the latest scan results? I inquired nervously. Indeed, he replied, moving in a little closer. Unfortunately, it's bad news. The cancer has spread to her liver. Metastasis, he explained, the weight of his words hitting me like a truck. How much time does she have? I probed. We're looking at maybe 3 to 4 weeks, possibly 2 months if palliative care goes well, he answered. Weeks. The word echoed in my mind. I'm very sorry. Our priority now is keeping her comfortable and managing the pain. She doesn't know all the details yet. She's aware it's gotten worse, but not just how much. I can speak to her later today. Maybe you'll want to be there. Yeah, I'll be there. I nodded, feeling numb. He gave my shoulder a quick, reassuring pat. You might want to alert your family and spend as much quality time with her as possible while she's still herself. I will, I whispered. With a weary step, Dr. Patel headed down the hallway, his white coat vanishing around the corner. I leaned back against the wall for support, the cool of it seeping through my shirt, and slid down until I was on the floor, knees tucked up to my chest. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours. Tears slipped quietly down my cheeks, and I tried to brush them off with my sleeve. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I couldn't muster the energy to check it. Eventually, on shaking legs, I pushed myself up and trudged back to room 412. Minnie was dozing, so I settled beside her, doing my best not to wake her. Our hands lightly touched, both frail as bird bones, as I watched her breathe, counting a slow 18 breaths per minute. When she finally opened her eyes, she asked, "You all right, sweetheart?" I lied. "I'm good. Just rest, okay?" Her voice softened. "Tell Stella I love her, you hear?" My throat tightened even more, but I managed to say, "I will." And with that, she drifted back into sleep. 3 weeks flew by, and Stella was somewhere far away, sipping cocktails. Pulling into my driveway, the gravel crunched beneath the car tires, and I turned off the engine. Silence filled the space, heavy like wet cement. Sitting there in the car, I stared at the front of the house. As if on cue, the porch light flicked on at exactly 3:45, courtesy of the timer Minnie had set up 5 years earlier. Digging out the keys, they felt icy and uncomfortable in my hand. Once inside, the quiet seemed too loud. Gone were the sounds of NPR humming in the kitchen, or Minnie's off-key singing while cooking, just the low rumble of the furnace kicking on. Standing in the foyer, my coat still on, I gazed up at the staircase leading to the second floor. 14 stairs, their edges smoothed down by countless steps, led up a well-worn carpet runner. My fingers brushed the banister, the same one Minnie had refinished 10 years ago, weekends spent sanding and staining. At the top of the stairs, I took a right into the study, the door creaking open with a familiar sound. Dust danced in the dwindling light filtering through the window. The room smelled of old books and lavender sachets hidden away in the corners, reminders of Minnie everywhere. I shut the door behind me, locking it for what seemed the first time in ages, needing the solitude. The far wall was dominated by an oak bookshelf stretching from floor to ceiling, something Minnie and I had assembled back in 1998. On the bottom shelf sat 3 large leather-bound photo albums, each embossed with dates: 1987, 2000, 2001, 2010, and 2011-2020. I reached for the one covering 2001 to 2010, a period that captured Stella's life from age 14 to 23. In the corner sat my father's old desk, its surface marked and worn from years of use. The chair creaked as I sat down, the sound almost comforting. Flipping open the album, each page shielded by tissue paper, reflected Minnie's love and care. The first photo was Stella's 8th grade graduation in 2003, her braces glinting in a wide grin as she hugged us both. Slowly, I turned the pages. There was Stella at 5, sitting on Minnie's lap at a birthday party, faces smeared with chocolate cake, Minnie holding her tight in a yellow sundress she loved. Another picture, Stella at 8, proudly presenting as a sunflower in a school play, clutching the flowers we'd given her, donned in a costume Minnie had stitched by hand. I flipped another album page, and there was Stella at 15, wearing a hospital gown, recovering from pneumonia. Minnie was dozing off in a chair next to her, and the clock showed exactly 3 a.m. I couldn't for the life of me remember capturing that moment. Then there's Stella at 20, beaming with joy on Northwestern's campus. It's Parents' Weekend, and she's got her arms wrapped around us, squinting against the bright October sunshine as she shows off her dorm. Fast forward to Stella at 23, in cap and gown for her college graduation, diploma in hand, while Minnie cried tears of joy. Her smile was just full of pride and love. As I ran my finger over little Stella's face in one of those pictures, I carefully peeled it from the album and held it under the desk lamp. Minnie's handwriting was scrawled at the bottom. Our sweet girl, age 5. Just as another picture slipped from my hand and landed on the floor, bending down felt like lifting a mountain. Behind the album's back cover, I found a worn-out manila envelope, labeled in Minnie's neat script. Stella, college letters. 8 letters were tucked inside, dated from 1997 to 2004. I arranged them on the desk, starting with the oldest, September 1997, her freshman year. Her handwriting was still bubbly and youthful. I spoke up, filling the silence. Mom and Dad, I miss you guys tons. Classes are tough but exciting. Thanks for everything you did to get me here. I won't let you down. Love, your Stella. P.S. Mom, I'm eating veggies like I said I would. The next letter was from March 1999, her sophomore year. Thanks for the birthday money. Used it on books. Boring, I know. Love you both. XO Stella. Short, but overflowing with warmth. November 2000 rolled around, her junior year. Hi, sorry I missed Thanksgiving. Snagged an internship opportunity. We'll make it up at Christmas. Even shorter than before. Then came April. By 2004, just after she wrapped up her postgraduate studies, there was an email I'd printed out because a lot of us did that back then. It talked about a promotion, the chance to become a director. She was moving into a bigger apartment, drowning in her new job. She mentioned catching up, but, well, that never really happened. Laying everything out, it was like watching someone walk away, getting smaller until they're just a dot on the horizon. The more successful she got, the less we seemed to fit in her life. I actually said that out loud to the empty room. It felt as though she just stopped caring. I had a bit of a struggle with the desk drawer that day, but finally it opened. Inside lay a small maroon velvet jewelry box. I popped it open, revealing a heart-shaped gold locket engraved with DUSEM 2000. It was for our 25th anniversary, a gift to Minnie. She never took it off until the chain snapped in 2018. The hinge was stiff as I opened it, hesitantly. On one side was a photo of baby Stella at only 3 months old, from back in 1988. The other side held a piece of her soft brown baby hair. The locket felt warm in my palm. That baby had needed us for everything, for feedings, diaper changes, comforting through endless sleepless colic nights. Poor Minnie barely slept for those initial months. The years swept by like a sudden realization. It hit me hard. Our completely dependent baby transformed into someone who seemed to move on without us. I clicked the locket shut, the sound like the closing of a chapter. Placing it with the letters and photos on the desk, I saw them all as proof of a shift I'd been blind to. It made me wonder what happened to our little girl, the one who would come running to us with her day's excited stories. Minnie had given her everything, 38 years juggling life's burdens. She sold family heirlooms to pay for summer camp in 2002, took on extra tutoring to build the college fund. Over endless nights, she sewed costumes for school plays. We forked out $200,000 for her to study at Northwestern, and finally, we bought her first car in 2008, a reliable used Honda Civic, painstakingly saving for 2 years to afford the $12,000 price tag. Each one of her letters ended with a heartfelt "thank you" until they stopped. Now, as Minnie got sicker, it had been a whole 3 weeks of silence from her. Stella seemed more captivated by bar hopping than by her mother's declining health. Left alone in the room, I felt my voice start to shiver as I buried my head in my arms on the desk, holding on to albums with my shoulders shaking. I had no clue how long I stayed like that. As the sky darkened and the streetlights flickered on, I finally sat up, hastily wiping my tears away, and took in the mess around me. Photos, letters, and a locket told the story of love slipping away over the years. Inside, a cold edge began to take shape, not completely fixed yet, but definitely growing stronger. I got up, leaving everything as it was, except for one letter, the very first one, where she'd promised us she wouldn't disappoint. I held it up to the window, squinting at her teen handwriting filled with empty promises. These choices were hers to own, casting a heavy silence around me. Sunday went by and 3 voicemails I left still had no reply. By Monday morning I was back with Minnie at 9 a.m., the machines steady with their beeps, and she mostly dozed, waking only to ask questions I had no answers for. Dr. Patel stopped by at precisely 2:15, checked the monitors, and scribbled in his notes. His expression said it all before he spoke. We stepped into the hallway as he gently informed me, "The latest results aren't promising. Her liver's failing quickly." I leaned against the wall for support. "How much time does that leave us?" I asked. "Maybe 2 or 3 weeks," he replied with genuine sympathy. "I'm so sorry." The hallway felt like it was swaying, and I had to steady myself. "I need to call my daughter," I said. "Don't put it off," he advised, gently patting my shoulder before disappearing down the corridor. My phone showed a meager 15% battery life. An ancient payphone caught my eye by the nurse's station, a relic from the past. Each step towards it felt like a mile. I dug out 3/4, just enough for a call. The receiver felt hefty, the cord a tangled mess. After some fiddling, the quarters clattered in loudly in the silence. I punched in her number, practically etched in my memory despite everything. 5 rings. "Dad," she finally answered, sounding annoyed with background noise of papers shuffling. "I'm in a meeting. What's going on?" My voice shook. I couldn't help it. "No, this can't wait. Dr. Patel just told me your mom has 2, maybe 3 weeks. Silence followed, then just a single word from her. "Okay." Her tone was emotionless. "Stella, did you get what I just said? Just weeks," I urged. "I hear you, but what do you expect me to do? Should I quit my job or cancel everything?" I've got a trip to Hawaii on Wednesday, she retorted defensively. Had it set up for months. I tried to wrap my head around it. Hawaii? Seriously? Yes, she confirmed. What about taking that break in Maui for 2 weeks? I mentioned it before, but you didn't exactly. Stella, your mom, my words came out like ice, chosen with care, is dying. I attempted to continue, but she cut me off, pushing forward. Yes, Dad, I know it's almost over for her. That's reality. But you know I can't stay cooped up in that dreary hospital forever. I haven't had a real break in 2 years. I need this trip to keep myself together. Finally, I managed a barely there whisper. Did you just call your mom an old woman? I've been in therapy for 3 years learning how to set boundaries. I'm doing that now. I'm not canceling my trip. When's your flight? Wednesday morning. I'll swing by to see her when I'm back if she's still. Anyway, I need to go. I've got a client here. We'll talk when I'm back. Bye. The line went dead, leaving me there with the phone in my hand, the endless drone of the dial tone in my ear. Time seemed to freeze, the seconds dragging into minutes, maybe longer. Mr. Harvey? Margaret's gentle voice broke through, her hand lightly touching my shoulder. I barely registered it, drained of energy. Mr. Harvey, she said again, softer this time. Slowly, I tried to place the receiver back, missing the cradle on the first try and attempting again. My hands weren't cooperating. When I turned to her, whatever was written on my face made her step back. What's happening? Is it Minnie? My voice was flat, without emotion. My daughter just referred to her mother as the old woman. Margaret paused, taking in my words. I'm really sorry. What did you say? She blurted out, the old woman doesn't have much time left, and then casually mentioned she was jetting off to Hawaii come Wednesday. Margaret's face went from surprise to full-on irritation in a split second. She's doing what now? She's taking off for 2 weeks while her mom is… Margaret couldn't finish the sentence as I slid down the wall to sit on the chilly hospital floor. Tears flowed silently, relentless and unstoppable. Margaret crouched down next to me, respecting my space, not touching me, just being there. Others walked by us in the corridor, eyes flicking our way but moving on quickly. Grief was no stranger here. I don't even know what to say, she began softly. There's really nothing to say, I mumbled, my hands muffling the words. You should stand up. Let's head to the waiting room. I just need a minute. Take your time. About 5 minutes later, I got to my feet with Margaret there to steady me. I need some fresh air. Are you okay to drive, you think? I didn't respond, just made my way to the elevator alone. As I descended, I watched the floor numbers light up. Ground floor. My reflection was muted in the shiny steel doors. Outside, a brisk March wind greeted me. It was cold, almost biting, though I barely noticed it, standing on the sidewalk. People surrounded me, coming and going, visitors, patients, staff. Life was flowing on relentlessly like a river around a rock. The parking lot had a good amount of empty spaces. The sky was a dreary gray, hinting at rain. A gust of wind blew some discarded newspapers and litter across the lot. I glanced at my watch. 2:43. Only 23 minutes since Dr. Patel had spoken to me. And in those short minutes, everything had shifted. I looked up at the hospital windows again. Minnie's 4th-floor window. She was lying there, with death hovering close. Meanwhile, Stella was planning to enjoy cocktails on a sunny beach. Anger started to crust over the sadness. This situation was not sustainable. I made my way to my car, sat quietly, engine off. I picked up my phone. The battery blinked red, down to 9%. By Wednesday, she'd be gone. 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks. Later that night at home, I found myself sitting in the dark kitchen. I had gotten home around 6:30, Didn't turn on any lights, didn't eat. Just sat there, turning Stella's words over and over in my head. The thought of the old woman lingered. At 9 p.m., I finally switched on my laptop. The house stayed dark except for the glow of the streetlight outside the window. The kitchen table was a mess with mail and my coffee cup from the morning. The low hum of the fridge filled the silent room. The blue glow from the laptop screen highlighted me. I took in the kitchen, Minnie's realm. 40 years of shared dinners, celebrations, morning chats over coffee. My gaze landed on a photo of Stella on the fridge door from a work party, her smile stuck in place by a strawberry magnet. I stood, the chair screeching back. In just 4 steps, I reached the fridge and removed the photo. The magnet fell and rolled away. I left it. I opened the drawer by the stove, the one full of random stuff, batteries, rubber bands, twist ties. I slipped the photo face down inside, closed the drawer softly. Then I went back to the table and sat again. This wasn't about getting back at her. It was about dealing with choices. Stella's decision was clear, a Hawaiian escape over her mom's last moments, her call. And if cash was her main concern, if I had a say, I'd pick the language that matters here. My fingers moved over the keyboard, each tap deliberate, though not fast. I typed slowly, just 2 fingers, but with purpose. I looked up info on changing Illinois' laws, found myself on an Illinois legal aid page. Everything was clear, straightforward. Checked out an Illinois legal article on cutting a grown child out of a will, detailed and to the point. It laid out Illinois' inheritance requirements, mentioning the 2-witness rule. Both need to be there and can't be family. I wondered if it was really possible for parents in Illinois to disinherit a child. Turns out, yes, they can, with clear wording saying so. The article suggested finding the best estate lawyer, maybe in Chicago. I was scrolling through search results when Samuel Green's law firm caught my eye as the 3rd listing. I just sat there for a second, eyeing the monitor with a little bit of nostalgia. Samuel Green. We went way back, like a good 25 years. Our wives even did the whole friends thing. He was actually the guy who sorted out our first will back in 2000. Picking up the phone the next day for a call was no biggie. I scribbled a quick reminder on an old envelope I had lying around. Green, call at 9 a.m. Made sure to remember the essentials. 2 witnesses needed, none from the family. The total? A whopping $620,000. That number sat heavy on my mind, over $500,000. It pushed me to dive into our financial files. Minnie had kept them so neatly for years, everything in its place, organized, labeled, and color-coded, just like her to do it right. Our joint savings were at $340,000. The house was pegged at a $280,000 value from an appraisal done 2 years ago. Life insurance, another $15,000. Add in funeral costs, and it all came up to $620,000. Stella probably thought that whole amount had her name on it, like she'd molded her entire future on it. Her apartment, lifestyle, retirement, all based on money she hadn't lifted a finger for, money she didn't quite earn. So, there I was, jotting down educational fund and adding Minnie's name right next to it on that envelope. I leaned back and read my notes. Minnie, who had given 40 years to teaching, influencing countless kids, making a difference that she might never fully grasp. Setting up a fund in her name seemed like it'd help kids who actually valued their education. Kids who knew the worth of what they got. Unlike Stella, felt spot on. I got up from my spot. The floor let out a tiny creak with each step I took towards the cabinet above the fridge. It opened with a soft squeak. Inside, there was a bottle of Jim Beam, mostly full with a layer of dust, untouched since Christmas. I brought it down, took a sturdy little glass from the cupboard, poured a couple of fingers' worth of that whiskey, all while breathing in its bold aroma. Brought the drink over to the table, but just sat looking at it for a while, not drinking, just staring at the laptop and my scribbled notes. This was it. Decision time. Minnie would have been against it. She'd advocate for forgiveness till forever, saying stuff like, family mends, love wins, second chances are everything. But I had that glass up and downed it in one fast gulp, grimacing as it scorched its way down. Not typically a drinker myself. The warmth spread through my chest, but along with it came something else. Determination, certainty, focus. I put the empty glass aside, took the envelope and wrote down a list. Next day's game plan. For Tuesday. First, call Samuel Green by 8 a.m. Second, get an emergency appointment. Third, have all financial papers on hand. Fourth, make a new will happen that very day. Fifth, head back to the hospital. Made a quick dash upstairs to the office. Came back with a folder loaded with papers, bank statements, property deeds, and our current will. Laid it all out right there on the table. Our latest will was from 2020. Pretty standard deal, everything going to Stella if we were gone. Nothing surprising about it, very routine. Snapped a pic of it with my phone, just sort of a before snapshot. Gathered up all those documents into a folder, labeled it green with a marker. Checked the time. It was 11:15 p.m. I'd been hard at it for over 2 hours, but felt more awake than ever. Stella's departure was set for 36 hours later. Her flight was at 6:30 a.m. on Wednesday. That meant I had just a day and a half to get things moving. Shut down the laptop. The kitchen slipped into darkness again, just the streetlight casting a glow through the window, and that low fridge hum. Collected the paperwork, leaving the whiskey glass there. Minnie, she would have cleaned it up at once, like she always did. But not me. Gathered the folder, headed for the stairs, and climbed with purpose in every single step. At 8 a.m. sharp, I'd be calling Green. The next day would change everything. It was Wednesday, March 19th, at 6 in the morning, when I saw a new post from Stella. I was just making coffee. It was a selfie at the airport, gate clearly visible behind her. Big old smile on her face. The caption read, "Off to paradise, Hawaii." She was in full-on vacation spirit, totally living it up. I captured that screenshot, saved it in a folder labeled Evidence on my computer, sipped on coffee that had cooled more than I liked, then pulled all the documents together. Got in the car and drove off to the hospital. In Chicago, the clock read 2 p.m., but over in Hawaii, it was still morning, 9 a.m. to be exact. I stumbled upon a new photo. There she was, with a lei slung around her neck, palm trees swaying behind her against a stunning blue sky. Her caption was simple. Aloha. Made it. At the time, I was camped out in Minnie's hospital room when my phone started buzzing, so I borrowed a colleague's phone to check out Instagram. Stella had built a wall between us several months back, leaving me to care for Minnie alone. There I sat, her hand in mine while she slept, counting every labored breath she took, each one slower than the last, 18 in a minute. Margaret passed by, caught my eye but didn't say anything. She didn't need to. It was March 20th, Thursday, watching the time shift from 10 sows in Hawaii to 9 sows in Chicago. Then, a beach picture showed up, cocktail in one hand, a tiny umbrella perched in it, with Stella announcing she was living her best life. I saved that picture when I got home, adding it to a stash of little betrayals. Skip to Friday, March 24th, at 3 p.m. in Chicago. I was reading Minnie's favorite book, Pride and Prejudice, when a phone call interrupted us. Aunt Doris was on the line, her tone biting. "Dewey!" she practically barked. "Janet showed me Stella's Instagram. She's on a beach, cocktail and all." I fumbled for words, but she cut in. "Don't defend her." Doris knew about the trip, boiling over with disbelief. You told her Minnie was dying, and she still went? She didn't have to finish. I got the point, loud and clear. The call ended, leaving me in the hallway with a dead phone and a newfound shame. Margaret, stationed at the nurse's desk, caught my eye again. We said nothing, but her look said plenty. By Saturday, March 22nd, with Hawaii's clock ticking at 11 a.m. and Chicago's 4 hours ahead, yet another post sprang up. Stella snorkeling with a turtle, surrounded by vibrant fish. She wrote about needing to unplug. By 4 p.m., Cousin Janet called, soft-spoken, but firm. She wondered aloud why Stella wasn't there. I stumbled and said it was complicated, but Janet, like everyone else, saw right through it. Aunt Minnie deserves better, she sighed, then hung up. Sunday blended into Monday, just one long, drab stretch of time. I sent Stella 2 texts. Mom's really bad, not eating. Doctor says organs are failing. 3 hours passed before I got a lukewarm, okay. She didn't ask for details or if she should come home. Monday came around and I shot another text asking her to call the hospital. 4 more hours crawled by before another lackluster okay showed up. I saved these texts, adding them to a bleak collection of evidence. Minnie's decline was unmistakable, her frailty evident with barely eating and endless sleep. By March 25th, Tuesday, Mrs. Olson stopped me by the mailbox, her voice dripping with pity after seeing Stella's holiday photos online. Pity stung worse than judgment. Then, at 5 p.m., a brilliant sunset cruise snapped from Stella's Hawaii. Pink skies, a wine glass capturing life's fleeting beauty, a harsh contrast to Minnie, whose life was slipping away. Between Wednesday and Friday, more pictures surfaced, Stella having a blast in Hawaii while Minnie's health spiraled. My daily routine became ritualistic. Sneak a look at social media through a borrowed account, rush to the hospital, stay with Minnie, and maintain a facade about Stella. Each night, I'd print the latest posts and add them to the swelling pile in the evidence folder, 27 captions strong, but not a single call to the hospital. By Saturday, March 29th and Monday, March 31st, Minnie's decline was undeniable. Yellowed skin, blood pressure dropping, her faint calls for Stella. I lied each time, saying she'd show soon. Dr. Patel didn't sugarcoat the reality. It was a matter of days. Shame was a heavy weight now, each call from Doris digging deeper, Janet's texts echoing the family's disappointment, Mrs. Patterson's concern from church highlighting everyone's grasp of the real versus the Instagram-staged truth. My evidence folder was a harrowing collection, 27 Instagram prints, empty texts, family calls, all neatly filed under truths I wished I could hide. So here's how it went down. It was Tuesday, April 1st, around 2 p.m. in Hawaii, which is like 7 p.m. in Chicago, when Stella shared her last little piece of the Hawaiian dream online. She wrote, "Last day in paradise, back to reality tomorrow." For a good 2 weeks, I was wrapped up in nothing but pure happiness. It was exactly the kind of escape I needed, brimming with gratitude for my life. During these 2 weeks, I mostly hung out at home. I had this folder filled with all the proof I'd gathered, 27 social media posts, nada from the hospital, and just a handful of okay texts. I crunched the numbers. She was due back on Wednesday, landing around 7:45 p.m. in Chicago. From there, she'd head to her apartment from O'Hare, getting home by 9 p.m. or so, to find everything I'd set up for her. After I shut the folder, I took one last peek in her old bedroom to make sure everything was perfect. Then, I headed downstairs, poured myself a steaming cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. By the next day, she'd know exactly what was coming her way. I finally managed to crack a smile. Though it was a bit chilly, it was rooted in certainty. Everything was falling into place. Rewind to just a week back, Tuesday, March 25th. There I was, taking the elevator all the way up to the 87th floor. I had already reached out to Samuel right after Stella headed off to Hawaii. "This is urgent," I told him. "I need to change my will, squeeze me in today." The moment the elevator doors opened, I was right there at Green and Associates. You couldn't miss how primo the place was with its plush carpet and walls covered in framed accolades. Linda, the receptionist, looked up and gave a polite smile. "Mr. Harvey, you can go in now. Mr. Green is waiting." She guided me down a hallway to a corner office with enormous windows offering an epic view of Lake Michigan. Samuel stood as I entered, offering a handshake filled with genuine concern. "Dewey, has it really been 2 years since we last met?" he asked, as he gestured for me to take a seat in a fancy leather chair facing his desk. "What's the emergency you mentioned?" I nodded, placing a brown folder on the desk in front of him. "She's got weeks, maybe even days left, and that's half the reason I'm here." Samuel's expression turned somber, sensing the gravity of it all. "I'm really sorry to hear that. What can I do?" "We need to completely redo my will," I said. Samuel pulled out a file from his desk, glanced over it, and responded, "Your will from 2020 leaves everything to Stella. Pretty typical unless you want her to have zilch." "Zero," I responded clearly. He hesitated with a pen in hand, looking up at me with a serious gaze. "You do realize that's final?" "I'm fully aware of what I'm doing," I assured him with confidence. "She's my only kid, and trust me, it's no easy decision." He leaned forward, curious to hear my reasoning. I opened the folder and started handing him the first document. "Take a look at this. An Instagram post from the airport, time-stamped March 19th, 6:17 a.m. Caption says, 'Off to paradise.'" He read the post, then looked at me, confused. My wife was clinging to life while our daughter was off in Hawaii. Maybe he thought Stella was clueless about her mom's condition, but I had laid it all out for her. I even pleaded. She called her grandmother instead, who told her that her mom didn't have much time left. Her answer? Why ruin a vacation for that? Samuel's brow furrowed as he took this in, and I slid over more printouts. There were 8 more posts, each showing her on a beach, holding cocktails, and smiling at sunsets, total selfies with glee. Then came the text messages, just 2 simple ones from me. "Mom's condition is very bad, and her organs are failing." Her replies were both okay. Samuel sat in heavy silence, eventually taking off his glasses to rub his eyes. 27 social media posts, he finally muttered. Not a single call to the hospital, none. And Minnie keeps asking about her. I end up lying, saying she's at work because Minnie can't handle the truth. I made sure I was there for Stella, through her upbringing and even at her graduation, Samuel said earnestly. Me too, I agreed. But this Stella, I don't know who she is now. After a moment of reflection, Samuel asked, "So, what's the plan?" "I want to set up an educational fund," I explained. "In Minnie's name, intended for kids who genuinely need it." Samuel nodded, leaned over his keyboard, and started typing. "According to Illinois law, you can disinherit someone completely if you clearly state it. We'll add a deliberate disinheritance clause so there won't be any disputes." While Samuel worked away at the computer, I paid little attention to the clock, only pausing from my thoughts whenever he threw a question my direction. My total assets were $620,000, including my home and savings. This would go toward a scholarship fund for Chicago public school students from low-income backgrounds who aspired to become teachers. Samuel typed with a rhythm that seemed fueled by Minnie's love for teaching. About a half hour in, the room was filled with nothing but the sound of his typing, broken occasionally by my brief answers. Finally, Samuel hit the print button, and moments later, he was reading the document aloud. I, Dewey Harvey, being of sound mind, make no provisions for my daughter, Stella Harvey. All my assets will fund the Minnie Harvey Educational Fund. Samuel looked up and said, "This will is solid. Once signed, it's legally binding." "That's exactly what I want," I replied as he reached for the intercom. "Linda, can you and Ben swing by for a minute? We need witnesses for a will signing." They came in quickly, businesslike and understanding the gravity of the situation without a word being said. Samuel handed me a pen, heavy and loaded with black ink. "Once you sign, there's no going back. Are you absolutely certain?" I didn't waver. I positioned the pen above the line. "I'm sure," I stated, signing firmly. Linda and then Ben added their signatures as witnesses. Samuel finished it off with his notary seal, pressing down until the paper crinkled. "It's finalized," he said, meeting my gaze. "Stella gets nothing after you and Minnie are gone." I leaned back, letting out a breath. It wasn't relief, but rather a sense of finality. "There's one more thing." I leaned forward again. "Stella needs to understand why." We agreed on the usual explanatory letter, plus something from me to be delivered when the will was executed. "I'll ensure it's handled," Samuel said, taking notes. I recalled how Stella referred to her mom as the old woman, how she never visited her in the hospital despite making 27 social media posts during that time. "This isn't revenge. It's about fairness. She didn't deserve it," I explained. "I'll draft and attach your letter to the will," Samuel promised, slipping the documents into a manila envelope and sealing it tight. He handed it over, and I felt its weight. Standing up, I shook his hand, asking, "Are we doing the right thing?" His grip lingered a moment. "For what it's worth, I support your decision." His support meant a lot. As I took the elevator down, the folder clutched under my arm, I felt progressively lighter as each floor passed by. The burden transferred from me to the papers inside that envelope. The envelope stayed in my desk drawer for 6 long days. Every morning I'd open the drawer, see it there, and close it back up. But on Monday, March 31st, I noticed Stella's last Instagram update. "Last day in paradise," it read. Just then, a message popped up from her. "Dad, I arrive tomorrow at 7:45 p.m., heading straight home." I squinted at the message. Just the basics. No, "How's Mom?" I replied quickly with, "Okay, I'll be home." Almost adding more, but decided against it, sending the terse version instead. Looking back at Stella's post, I saw her grinning with a sunset and a glass of wine. "Perfect 2 weeks," the caption said. Friends commented, "So jealous. Come back refreshed. You deserve this." She didn't have a clue about what was waiting for her at home. That evening, it was time for another hospital visit. I made my way there, parked, and navigated to the 4th floor, to room 412 again. Minnie lay resting, breathing through an oxygen mask. Her liver was failing, just like Dr. Patel had warned us. I sat beside her, holding her cold, frail hand under the blanket. After about 10 minutes, she stirred, her eyes blinking open to find mine. I lifted the mask slightly so she could talk. "Is she?" she managed to whisper, voice raspy. "I'm here, darling. I'm always here." "Minnie," I stopped, unsure how to proceed. "Stella's coming home tomorrow." Her expression softened into a look of relief. "She's coming." I gently traced my finger around and around on her hand and said, "I've changed the will. Stella's not getting a dime now." The money would instead set up an educational program in honor of Minnie, designed to help kids who really needed it. Confused, she knitted her brows as I explained, "Stella chose sandy beaches and sun over visiting you when you needed her. I just can't let that slide. Maybe you could, but I can't." A solitary tear rolled down Minnie's face. "My dear child," she whispered. "I'm sorry," I murmured back. "Actions just have to have consequences." Minnie closed her eyes, too worn out to argue, her tears glistening on her cheeks. "I love you. This is all to honor you." She turned quiet, drifting back to sleep, as I gently placed the mask back on her and sat by her side, watching every breath she took for another hour. By Tuesday morning, when I was at home alone, I found the envelope on the desk. The undeniable truth was there, right in my hands. I opened it cautiously, checked the will copy that was neatly stapled inside, along with the letter I'd penned. I read that letter one more time. "Stella, if you're reading this, it means your mother has passed on. You weren't by her side. You decided to be elsewhere, referring to her simply as the old woman. Her last days mattered little to you." I went to get a splash of water and gently applied it to her face. She shuddered, blinking as if trying to shake off a fog. "Dad, what's happened?" she mumbled, trying to piece her surroundings together. "You fainted," I explained calmly, helping her to sit up. "You read that letter." Looking around, still a bit out of it, she spotted the scattered papers, then turned to me. "Is it for real? I'm actually not getting anything?" "Yes," I answered, maintaining a calm but firm tone. "That's how your father wanted things. The money's going to the fund." Her gaze held mine for a moment, her emotions swirling between shock and anger. "But why? How could he do this? How could you stand by?" I took a moment to breathe, trying to stay grounded. "Your father made his choice. He wanted his legacy to uplift future teachers, to make a real change. It's not meant to be a punishment, Stella. It's about decisions. What you choose has consequences." Her eyes fell, the defiance in her softening. "I never thought it would turn out like this," she murmured more to herself than to me. "Neither did I confessed, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "But this is where we are." She searched my face for something, understanding, maybe even forgiveness. "I need time to wrap my head around all this," she finally said, getting to her feet. "I just need some space." "Take as much time as you need," I promised, backing up to give her space. Her belongings clutched to her. She left the room, her expression one of resignation. As she walked out, leaving silence behind her, I knew things weren't ever going to be the same. But maybe, just maybe, this was a step in a new direction, a chance to rebuild, to start fresh. A beginning, even if it came from a place she hadn't imagined. I splashed a bit of water on her face and, bit by bit, she started coming around. Her eyelids fluttered, the confusion clear in her gaze. With a soft groan, she finally focused on me. You could see the bewilderment all over her face. "Where am I?" she mumbled, but sudden clarity kicked in and her eyes snapped wide open. She tried to sit up in a jolt, but felt a bit off-kilter. I reached out, steadying her by the shoulder, not out of affection, but because it was the right thing to do. "What happened?" Her voice barely above a whisper. "You passed out," I said. "Just for about 20 seconds. Suddenly, she grabbed my arm, eyes wild with panic. "Dad, that letter, and the will, please, tell me it's all made up." I looked her in the eye and said, "It's as real as it gets." Panic colored her voice as she protested, "No, you can't go through with this." "It's done," I replied evenly. "March 25th, it's all said and done." Her voice cracked as she insisted, "No, this has to be a cruel joke. You're just trying to scare me." I reassured her, "It's no trick." She pleaded with her eyes, "All right, I'm sorry. I'll see Mom tomorrow, I promise." I shook my head. "Tomorrow's a day too late. You can't just cut me off. I'm your daughter. I paused before quietly asking, Are you, though? When I asked her the question, she just went quiet, like someone had hit the mute button. She was completely at a loss for words, just sitting there on the floor. I got her to sit up against the bed, and she was shaking all over. She looked at the will again, trying to make sense of these numbers. $620,000 earmarked for an education fund, with strict instructions that she was out of the will. Her eyes locked onto mine, full of shock. Are you serious? She asked, clutching the will like it was a lifeline, emotions pouring out. Whether they were tears or fury, I couldn't quite tell, but I held my ground. She stayed on the floor, surrounded by papers that had just smashed her plans to pieces. The silence between us was like a big, empty space until she finally got to her feet and shoved the will in my face, insisting, This isn't legit. I kept my arms crossed, not budging from the doorway. It's all perfectly legal, I replied. You can't just cut me off, she argued. But I already have, I said flatly. She shot back, I'll fight it. No lawyer would back this up. I nodded slowly. Samuel Green drew it up, best lawyer in Chicago. It's rock solid. In desperation, she switched tactics. You're doing this to punish me. I looked her square in the eye. You did this to yourself. Her voice got louder. I've been overwhelmed. You don't know my life. But I responded calmly. Oh, I understand perfectly. She pleaded, her voice breaking. I'm your daughter. Doesn't that mean something? I gave her a cold stare. You were my daughter, as in, you used to be. Those words hit her like a punch. How can you say that? She cried out. How could you call your mother the old woman? I pushed, and she stopped in her tracks. I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting what I said. I quoted directly, March 17th, 2:23 p.m. You said, the old woman doesn't have much time left. I'm not sacrificing my life at a hospital. She rushed to excuse herself. I was stressed. Work pressure. You have no idea what that's like. I looked her straight in the eye. You were at a business meeting, then off to Hawaii for 2 weeks. She stumbled. I needed that break. For my mental health. My therapist said so. I stopped her with a hand motion, cutting her off. She tried a new angle, more aggressive this time. You're no saint. You worked all the time while I was growing up. I pointed out, I did all those extra hours to pay for your $200,000 education at Northwestern. That was your choice, she said accusingly. I chose to give you opportunities. My voice was firm. Yet you picked parties over your sick mother, I continued, and she reacted like I'd slapped her. She paced up and down, pulling at her hair, then dropped to her knees in a dramatic gesture. She grabbed my pants, begging, Daddy, please, I'm sorry. I've made mistakes. I looked down at her, feeling nothing. She tried to kiss my hand, but I stepped back. I'll change. I'll visit Mom every day, she vowed, tears finally rolling down her cheeks, and I knew they were real now. I softened my voice. And say what, exactly? Whatever you want. I'll apologize. I'll make things right. Her tears were flowing freely now. Just please, she begged, change the will. You're not sorry for hurting her, I said. You're sorry you're missing out on money. She tried to argue. That's not true. But I stayed firm. With every word, you're proving I made the right call. She broke down. I'll take care of both of you, I swear. Softly, I said, if you really cared, you'd have been around, but you weren't. Her fight left her. She wasn't passing out, just utterly drained, sitting among the papers. What can I do? She asked, sounding like she'd given up. Tell me what to do. I told her, resigned. Nothing. It's done, and made for the door. Where are you going? she shouted as she hurried to her feet and tried to follow me down the stairs. 14 steps down, she came after me into the living room. I sat in my chair, seeing her still standing in the doorway, awkwardly, clutching those papers like they might somehow rescue her. The rain hammered harder against the windows as the clock ticked to 9:10. I rifled through a side table drawer and pulled out a manila folder. She noticed it, but hadn't pieced it all together yet. Not yet. I opened it, pulled out the first page, and laid it on the coffee table for her to see, then placed another one beside it. She watched, utterly confused. At first, she had no idea what she was looking at, but then it hit her hard. These were her own social media posts. Her face turned as pale as a ghost. Right there, clear as day, was the post from March 19th, 6 a.m. at O'Hare Airport. I pointed it out to her. "Off to paradise," it said. The room went dead silent. That same morning, her mom couldn't even sip water. Then I laid down the next post. On March 20th, she was on Wiki Beach, in a bikini with a cocktail in hand. The caption read, "Living my best life." On that day, they had to put a catheter in her mom because using the bathroom was no longer possible. Another post showed her snorkeling with a sea turtle, dated March 22nd. Her words, "Underwater world is magical." I tapped the date with intent. On that day, her mom had told me, "Dway, I want to see Stella one last time." I continued to spread out these moments, one after another, like a dealer with cards, showing no mercy: beaches, sunsets, fancy dinners, helicopter rides, yoga selfies, drinks with strangers. Every joyous image of her trip was a stark contrast to each downturn her mother was enduring. March 25th, she was soaring through the sky on a parasail, while her mom decided she couldn't handle solid food anymore. By March 28th, she was enjoying a luau, and her mom could barely stay awake for a few hours in a day. Her last post bore the date April 1st, celebrating a perfect 2 weeks. Meanwhile, her mother's liver was shutting down. Stella's hands trembled as she picked up a printout. "Dad, please stop," she begged. But stopping wasn't on my list. She perched at the edge of the couch, her eyes fixed on the evidence laid out in front of her, fingers sneaking a peek through to see what I'd revealed. Then, I showed her my phone and scrolled through our text messages. On March 23rd, I had texted her, "Mom, very bad. Organs failing. Doctor says days." I kept scrolling to reach her response, just an okay. Again, on March 26th, I wrote, "Please call the hospital. Nurse Margaret can update you." Her reply again was just, "Okay." I put my phone down. I counted 27 posts and 38 comments on other people's photos, yet not a single call to the hospital, not a single inquiry about the medication or her mom's pain levels. Nothing. She mumbled, "I thought I had time." I pointed out, "You found time for helicopter tours." "I was planning to visit when I got back," she said, voice hinting at desperation. "When was this back?" I asked, locking eyes with her. "When she was already gone." The room felt heavy with quiet. I turned away, staring out the window into the dark, rain-swept street. A quiet 10 seconds slipped by before I spoke again, still facing the storm outside. "Your mother passed away today." I didn't hold back the words. "At 6:30 this evening." Her face twisted in confusion. "What? What are you saying?" I turned back to her, meeting her eyes. "Minnie died on the flight back from Hawaii." "No." She shook her head, tears spilling over. "No, you're lying. You just want to hurt me more." "It can't be," she stammered. "I just talked to you yesterday." I explained that the hospital had called me at 6:15 and I got there by 6:25. I needed her to face the truth. Her mom was lucid, thanks to the morphine in those final moments. Margaret was there, the nurse she never called, and Aunt Doris made it from Springfield just in the nick of time. Mrs. Olson came by to say her goodbyes. Everyone who should have been there was there, except her. Her voice wavered, asking, "What? What were her last words?" I let the silence speak volumes before finally saying, "Where's Stella?" Then I waited again. Those were the last words Minnie uttered, a question, not a declaration. I held her hand and lied, telling her, "Minnie, she's coming, honey. She's on her way." And so Minnie waited, closing her eyes for the last time. But Stella never arrived. She passed at 6:31. Stella slipped off the couch onto the ground, a genuine sorrow breaking free, a heartbreaking cry. "No, no, no," she whispered, rocking as if to comfort herself. "I didn't know. I didn't know." I responded plainly, "You didn't ask." Around her lay the scattered printouts of her vacation posts, fallen like autumn leaves. Her mother's final word was her name, a question that was never to be answered. I stood, watching over her, stoic and silent. She had lost more than she could ever calculate that night. The following morning at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday, I came down the stairs. Stella was still there on the couch, unfazed, eyes puffy and red from a night full of tears. I walked past her, headed to the kitchen, and prepared 1 cup of coffee. She stood in the doorway, about to speak, but I raised my hand to cut her off. "The funeral is on Saturday, April 5th, at 11 a.m. at Morrison Funeral Home on Maple Street," I said. "You can choose to come. That's entirely up to you." I took a breath and went on. "After the funeral, you've got Sunday and Monday to gather your stuff from the house. I'm changing the locks after that." Stella tried to speak. "Dad, can't we talk about—" But I stopped her right there. "No need," I said plainly. "We've said everything there is to say about your mom and us." I looked her square in the eyes and added, "There's no us, Stella. It's just a father telling his daughter about a funeral. Nothing else." Stella pleaded, "Don't say that." But I stuck to my guns. April 5th, 11 a.m. That's all you need to know. I walked past her, heading upstairs, leaving her standing alone in the kitchen. Come Saturday at 11, 60 folks gathered at Morrison Funeral Home. The place was filled with tulips, Minnie's absolute favorites. There was a simple oak casket closed, and photos of Minnie displayed on easels. One showed her as a young teacher, another captured our wedding day, and one with her holding baby Stella. Stella turned up solo in a black dress, sitting in the back instead of with the family. People noticed and whispered. Aunt Doris walked by her without a nod, and Cousin Janet glanced over with a sympathetic look. I was at the podium, doing my best to hold it together. Minnie Harvey was the finest person I'd ever met. We were married for 42 years, and I felt grateful for her every single day. She was a teacher at heart, always showing love, patience, and forgiveness. She found the good in people, even when it was hard to see. Some folks eyed Stella. Minnie had a knack for making the world better. Now her memory lives on through an educational fund we've set up. She always said, "Children are our future." Her legacy will help shape that future. When I wrapped up, I sat down, not mentioning Stella at all. People came over to hug me and pass on their condolences. Stella kept her distance but eventually gave me a quick, cold hug. I didn't say anything, just turned to talk to others. She was left out of every conversation. At the cemetery, she kept her distance during the service and only approached the grave once everyone else had left. I watched her from my car before driving away. It was Sunday afternoon, April 6th. Stella was in her old room, packing things up. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, just watching, ready to speak only if she did first. I reminded her she had until 6 p.m. on Monday. By Monday at 5:30, she was dragging her last suitcases downstairs. She stopped at the door, turned to me, and said, "Dad, I know you're mad, but I'm still your daughter. That has to count for something." I replied, You were my daughter, stressing the past. People screw up, she pushed. Forgetting a birthday or skipping a meeting are mess-ups, not like what she did. I kept my voice calm. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, I told her. I chose wrong. I know that now, she admitted. I shot back with, you chose to drink instead of being there for your mom. Live with that choice. She made one last attempt, talking about contesting the will. I just smiled coldly. Go ahead. Samuel Green wrote it. I've got proof. Your posts, texts, witness statements from nurses and family. The court will see the real you. But if you want public humiliation, be my guest. Defeated, she said. I regret everything. I replied, I regret what you became. Goodbye, Stella. She lingered at the door, hoping for something from me, but I stayed silent. She left, and I locked the door behind her. I listened as her car started and drove off. On Friday, April 11th, a week later, while sorting through the mail, I came across something from Green and Associates. Standing in the garden, I opened it. The letter read, Dear Dewey, we're excited to tell you that the Minnie Harvey Educational Fund is now officially registered with the state of Illinois. Tax-exempt status has been approved. The fund holds $620,000, and the first scholarships will be given out in September 2025. 15 students will receive $5,000 each year, renewable. The first recipient is pending. Maria Gonzalez, 15, daughter of a cleaning service worker, dreams of teaching English, has a 4.0 GPA, and volunteers as a tutor. She's just the kind of kid Minnie would have chosen. Your wife's legacy begins now, Samuel. I parked myself on the familiar bench where Minnie and I savored our morning coffees for 4 decades. The birds were chirping cheerfully, the sun felt nice and warm, and spring was showing off its full glory. I pulled out a photo from my wallet, a snapshot from the time before Stella, before the cancer, just the two of us. Staring at the picture, a genuine smile slowly spread across my face for the first time in weeks. I did it, sweetheart, I murmured to her. I know you wanted to forgive, but I'm not capable of that. Forgiving someone who treated you like Stella did isn't something I can do. Instead, your name will now help kids who truly appreciate the opportunities coming their way. Yeah, Stella may have missed out on an inheritance, but in turn, those kids have chances to shape their futures. That's what real fairness looks like. That's what's right. The photo captured Minnie at 25, back when it was all about her glowing smile. I grinned back at the picture, enjoying the sun's warmth. The first bit of comfort I'd felt in quite some time. Minnie's name was going to make a difference for 15 kids this year, and that was more than enough for me. It wasn't about getting even, it was about facing the outcomes. And finally, those outcomes were here.